Hey everybody, I'm called Samantha. You might not want to be friends with me. My presence always brings bad luck. I'm always getting into trouble because I'm not so lucky. You know why? Because I was born on Friday the 13th. I didn't realize it when I was a child, but my mother said I often got myself into dangerous situations. A black cat crossed my path, and a second later I fell into a hole. Or I accidentally shattered dishes in the house, cutting myself in the process. I even shattered mirrors in the house. And on that day, my mother was especially frightened. Something always fell on me, and I stumbled, or hit something on the road because I wasn't looking ahead. All in all, I was a walking disaster. But the thing is, what happened to me as a child was just a minor setback. As I got older, the consequences of my bad luck got much, much worse. For example, on my birthday, when I turned 13, my mother brought me a cake with 13 candles. When I blew out all the candles, I closed my eyes to make a wish. But before I could make it, I heard screams. It turned out that I had leaned so close to the candles that my hair caught fire. One of the guests grabbed a bowl of punch from the table and poured it over me. Yep, I spent the next 6 months with a very short haircut until my hair finally grew back. But thanks to the guy with the punch, it could have ended even worse. The list of incidents I got myself into are so endless, I could go on forever. On my 14th birthday, I was almost hit by a car. At 15, I think I fell down the stairs, or I was bitten by a dog that day. I can't quite remember now. But I'm almost 16, and I'm already really scared. I'm scared that something really awful is going to happen to me today. Today, when I was at school, I accidentally broke the mirror in our classroom, and a couple of seconds later, the cupboard I was standing next to started falling on me. I managed to bounce back at the last second when I felt a book hit me on the head. The cupboard fell right in front of me. The whole class saw it. Of course, they didn't make fun of me for being so clumsy. Everyone knew my date of birth and that I often got into such situations. That's why children at school were afraid of me and didn't want to interact with me. And when I walked past them, I could hear them gossiping everywhere behind my back. My classmates even gave me an offensive nickname, Trouble. I came home that day and walked with a resolute look towards my mother, who was sitting in the kitchen. I had always complained to my mother about being haunted by bad luck and getting scared of life. But my mother, as someone who absolutely does not believe in omens, had always shied away from this conversation. This time, however, I didn't even let her say a word. I just started listing all the things that almost caused me to die. My mother herself reminded me of a couple of them in my childhood. And you know how many of them came out? 15. That's exactly how old I am. And in a week's time, my 16th birthday is approaching. And I'm getting really scared for my life. After I finished my impressive monologue about my bad luck, I cried. My mother took a deep breath and hugged me. With her other hand, she picked up the phone and dialed the number of some old acquaintance of hers. She asked her to come as soon as possible. An hour later, a strange-looking woman was standing in our living room. Her face was covered with a dark veil and a handkerchief tied around her head. Her black dress draped across the floor. Before I knew it, I was at our living room table, with a large candle burning with a strange blue flame, and the lady in black sitting across from me. She called herself a fortune teller. It was just the two of us in the room. She explained that fortune telling was restricted to me, but that I could share it with my mother if I wanted to. She looked at me questioningly, and I knew what she was waiting for, and nodded resolutely in response, letting me know that I was ready to begin. The seer scattered the cards on the table, and then with a wave of her hand, asked me to choose a card. Among the 5 cards, which were face up, I drew one with a trembling hand. The card depicted some kind of witch. The fortune teller clucked and dealt the cards a second time. Now I pulled out a card which had on it a tree that had been struck by lightning. The candles began to crack violently at this point. The seer looked at me, her gaze cold and penetrating to the bone. She said that I really hadn't been very lucky, but that my bad luck was compounded when someone gave me a cursed object. I frowned my eyebrows, not sure what she was talking about. It was explained to me that someone had given me an item that was enchanted with bad luck, and I took it willingly. That is, bad luck passed on to me when I agreed to take that very item. I had 1,000 questions, but the fortune teller suddenly extinguished the candle. She told me to find the object and give it to someone. However, on no account should I throw it away or lose it, for then the curse of failure would remain with me for life. At that moment, a light came on in the room, and my mother came in. She asked how we were doing. I said that everything seemed to be clearing up, but I decided not to say anything about the curse for the time being and to put some thought into it. The fortune teller and my mother left, and I went to my room to think about it. It sounded crazy, but what if it was true? I hadn't always been this unlucky, so maybe I did have a cursed object. The thought made me feel uncomfortable. Then I started to move quickly around my room. I pulled everything out of the wardrobe, checked all my jewelry, and moved all the furniture around to see if anything had rolled under it. After about an hour of searching, I was sitting in the center of the room. It was chaos all around me, but I couldn't find anything cursed. When I think back, I don't think I was always this unlucky. Yes, I wasn't the luckiest, but the big failures started when I was about 13, on my birthday. I tried to remember who came to me then. I couldn't do it myself, so I asked my mom. My mother, who was sitting alone in the kitchen at the time, readily listed all the guests to me. I wondered if they had given me anything special. Mom thought about it and said that there was our Auntie Jane, with whom Mom had had a very long and very big row a long time ago. You could tell that she and Mom were enemies. No one invited Auntie Jane that day. She came with a present, and Mom didn't turn her away. According to my mother, Auntie Jane had given me a gold amulet with a precious stone, but my mother took it away from me, for I was too young to have such gifts. My mother had kept it all along and wanted to give it to me when I was a little older. I asked my mother to show me the amulet. She didn't say no because she was planning to give it to me on my 16th birthday. She asked why I was so interested in it, and I told her the truth. She didn't particularly believe in fortune-telling and invited her acquaintance just to make me feel better. But as this amulet was my gift, she gave it away. It was a very beautiful amulet with a red stone inside. It looked pretty harmless, like any jewelry. I started thinking about how to check if it really brings bad luck. And I think I came up with a great idea. The next morning, I went up to my classmate, Cindy. Cindy was beautiful, smart, but a very mean girl. She was the one who gave me the nickname Trouble, after which everyone started calling me that. Cindy also made fun of me and branded me a loser. Well, I had decided she should experience bad luck for herself. I walked up to Cindy and told her that I wanted to finally put away the hard feelings. And to honor that, I was giving her this stylish gold amulet. Naturally, she couldn't refuse such a gift and almost ripped it out of my hands. She pushed me away afterwards, telling me not to even dream of being friends with her. All day long, I watched Cindy. When she sat on the chair in class, it cracked beneath her and she fell, in addition to being hit from above by a textbook that had fallen off the desk. She was so shocked, and the whole class laughed, and me, of course, the loudest. You should have seen what happened to her in PE class. She was like a magnet attracting any ball. Anyone who threw the ball was bound to hit her. And Cindy herself fell a couple of times, stepping on loose shoelaces. At that moment, I was laughing my ass off. Cindy looked at me suspiciously. By the end of the school day, she had managed to fall a couple more times, hitting the locker door and dropping her entire lunch on the floor. I was amused by all of this, and she was very annoyed by my contented look. I waited for her in the hallway. Angered, she came up to me and started poking me with the amulet. She asked me to take it back. I could have refused, of course, and condemned Cindy to eternal bad luck. But I couldn't do that. As bad as she was, she didn't deserve it. I took the amulet. I stood at the bus stop and waited for my bus. But it turned out that the bus I needed had been canceled today. It was still bad luck, though. I had to walk home. On my way, I decided to go to the shop and get something to eat. When I got to the door, I tried to yank it open, but it wouldn't budge. So I yanked it harder and hit myself in the forehead. Oh, damn amulet. There were only a few customers in the shop itself. I calmly walked around the shop and picked out my soda. Suddenly, a guy in a mask with a big bag burst into the shop. He pulled out a gun and pointed it in the air. He was acting very confident, as if he had been doing this for years. The robber demanded that everyone present give him everything of value they had. One by one, he went from one person to another, threatening them with his gun. The vendor at this point disappeared somewhere. The line reached me as well. Fear made it very difficult for me to think, so the criminal said that he wanted everything in my pockets. I threw everything I had in my pockets into his bag. The robber ran towards the door, but as he took a few steps, he slipped on the wet floor and fell. The gun flew off to the side. At the same time, 2 policemen who had been called by the shop assistant burst into the shop. They handcuffed the criminal and took him away. I was still terrified. I checked my pockets, and you know what? There was nothing. Nothing at all, including the amulet. I could see why he had such bad luck. After I got rid of the jewel, my life changed dramatically. I stopped falling down and being afraid that something would fall on top of me. And I finally had some friends over to my 16th birthday party, where nothing bad happened to me. But one thing I can't understand is, did my Auntie Jane hate my mother so much that she gave her daughter such a gift? And where did she even get that damn amulet? What kind of a person? Tell us your biggest failure in the comments. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel.